Welcome to yet another episode of Masterclass. This is where we explore how emerging technology lands at the G2000 and what happens when emerging technology runs at enterprise scale. And our flavor of the month and of the last few months has been AI. It's been at the top of everybody's imagination. And today we want to explore and unpack one new topic, and that is how is AI going to be changing customer experience. So, called today the dawn of AI driven customer experience. And I have with us today a guest who's not just a guest, he's a good friend, a friend who's one of the best lateral thinkers I know, and a thought leader, Pritesh Gandhi. He's been in this industry for 20 years. He's seen multiple industries. He's gone all the way from semiconductors through banks, through travel and hospitality, and of late for the last 6 7 years it's been predominantly customer experience. He's had these multiple roles at firms like Air Canada and changed their customer experience. So can't think of a better person to explore this topic with. Pritesh, welcome and happy to have you here.
Thank you, Prashant. Really happy to be here and excited about the topic that is on top of everyone's minds.
Exactly. So maybe since it's the top of at the top of everyone's minds, maybe let's just unpack it a little bit. And I'd like to start these episodes by saying, how do you see this hype of AI and Gen AI? I mean, I think we're coming on almost a year now of when ChatGPT hit the headlines. How do you see AI and Gen AI? What are your mental models?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I'd say in the past year, AI has gained significant attention. I think primarily due to success of ChatGPT. And it's become almost like a household name if you think about it. And I mean, the numbers we talked about were reaching 1 million within less than 3 or 5 days, something like that.
Yeah.
And it started sparking those discussions that we've had. I think we've talked about this for ages. Is that job losses due to AI, the possibility of robots taking over jobs, or humans in workplaces, and then even the odd joke about robots ruling over humans, like you've seen in the Hollywood movies, right? I think in addition to that, jokes aside, right? There is this pervasive fear of missing out. I would say FOMO surrounding AI. So think about every individual, almost every team, maybe even a company and organization is eager to join this AI ML bandwagon because nobody wants to be left behind.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to feel excluded from this new and shiny, apparently new and shiny because it's not necessarily new, transformative technology. So I think from that perspective, in my personal viewpoint, when it comes to IT leaders, digital leaders, and any customer experience leaders, it's crucial to understand how AI can be leveraged to solve problems that we currently encounter. Instead of trying to just introduce it as a technology, what are your current problems?
Mm,
And there are quite a few in my head that come up, right? And I'm sure we'll get into a lot of these as we chat about it. But customer segmentations
yeah.
help us understand better, your customers, how to segment them, what models to drive around them. Predictive maintenance, right? I think that is a real use case of equipment that needs maintenance, right? Customer support. We talked about a little bit about support and experience. That's a real area, not a hype. A lot of companies are already doing that, and a big one I think in my mind is fraud detection.
Yeah.
And when it comes to identifying any odd user behaviors and patterns and things like that, that's a real use case.
It feels different this time, Pritesh, because I mean, if you look at the previous waves, let's talk about the last one, cloud. That felt like a very IT tech thing, and everybody in the IT department was trying to say move to cloud, and the rest of the organization was wondering why or even saying why. This time I feel like the exact opposite. Now it's come from the from everyone in the organization. Everybody wants to say, okay, let's now move our business to AI, and now IT is caught on the holding the ball on the how of it. So it feels like it used to go from one department through the rest of the organization, and now the rest of the organization wants to do it, and now we need to figure out how to. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you,
No, absolutely, and I think what is going to end up happening is that when you start looking at any of these new transformative technologies that come up, whether it's AI or anything net new that'll come up, you're going to start seeing that there is more and more of those kind of requirements coming directly from the business,
hmm,
and then if IT, like again, like I said, right, is not or the digital teams are not ready for any of this, understanding technologies a bit, doing pilots, doing proof of concepts, they're going to be a little behind. And like I said, what ends up happening then is it creates this fear of missing out. And then you start looking at things, whether you're IT or on the business side, you start looking at things that'll just get your name out there, and you'll pick a use case or two or three that makes you look good on paper, but it probably doesn't solve the business need. And then you get into this sort of a cycle.
yeah.
So I totally agree with you. It's like that wave has changed where IT is driving some of these use cases, the transformation. The businesses, I would say, IT or business, the business is starting to get really, really savvy now and can start talking again, thanks to Chat GPT and others. You can. It's not just googling anything. You can actually understand quite a bit on a lot of topics by just going into Chat GPT and typing it up, sort of a thing. You can write code now, right? So I totally understand what you're saying, where that wave has changed, where you'll see the business driving a lot of that.
And I think we need to thank ChatGPT because I think they've taken AI and brought it to have shown the masses what's possible, right? So
Exactly.
AI used to be in one small department of data geeks, and now it's no longer, because now everybody can see what's possible. And what's possible seems to have changed from just large scale predictions and large scale judgment algorithms to now generation of things, generation of text, generation of images, and suddenly a topic like AI starts um, coming into daily lives. Now, daily lives, of course, of you and me. So even I check what are the top 10 Thai restaurants in Westchester, and you get results almost immediately. What
Exactly.
happens what happens when something like this enters the enterprise? I'm hearing lots of things. I'm hearing everything from wow, look at the possibilities, to oh my god, what happens if the answer is wrong and it affects our brand? So when you take something like this and bring it into an enterprise, help me understand what are the implications.
Absolutely. What I would say is that, first of all, when something like this comes in, there is a lot of different implications that organizations are starting to look into. There is the data privacy. There is system integration. There is the ethical concerns and things like that, right? So I would say the biggest one is making sure as organizations dabble a little bit into any of this, right? The primary concern is going to be being transparent about what information is being collected, why are they collecting it, how are they using it. I mean, it comes down to as simple as that, and showing all of those in your privacy policies, your data policies that you've got, and once that trust is built, why you're using it and how the customer is going to benefit from it, showing examples of it, right? A lot of times, like if you start still thinking about it, right? When you look at any data policies, any privacy policies, they're still nice print. At the end of the day, they're at the bottom of the any website you look at, any app you look at, or when you download the app, you're agreeing to certain things, right? And how many people actually read it? Not, I would say 99% of the people don't read it.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you actually even make some of that language a lot simpler for customers to read? And it's not font size 7 or 8, right? It's font size 12, and you make it really, really simple. When you move going away from just covering yourself to being a little bit more transparent, I think you start changing that a bit, where customers start seeing how it's going to be useful for them. I'll give a perfect example, right? I was on a cruise recently, and if someone told me that, I went with our extended family. We were a total of 8 people on the itinerary. Now imagine if you've done a cruise and you're at the terminal, having to check in 8 people through your passports and all of that, with a 1.5 year old, uh, can be can be a real fun and challenging, at the both at the same time exercise.
Yeah.
Now imagine if someone told me, we can breeze you through this, if you gave me all this information, and this is how we're going to protect it, and this is how we're going to use it, even though you've given us for check-in. Um, I think personally, I would be okay with it,
Hmm.
right? Knowing that they're going to use some of that information to fast track some of the work that they're doing, right? So imagine, like, facial recognition. You start looking at some of that, and you're entering a terminal, facial recognition, you're checking yourself in, and you can move things faster, right? So biometrics, facial recognition. So I know we're jumping a little bit around here, but
Yeah.
start from that perspective. The data collection consent is quite important. The algorithm biases, that might be in the models itself, is quite important as well, because sometimes unintended biases can be in the models, and it can go in, and it could lead to customer profiling, which could lead to discrimination. Now, it's not, I mean, the worst case wouldn't be if you just happen to get an ad that was not intended for you.
Yeah.
But say you're at immigration, and there is facial recognition, and if there are some biases in the algorithm, and every single time, the way you look from a profiling perspective, you get pulled aside and you're not allowed through, can cause concerns and
Yeah.
things like that. So I think those are the things and implications that people have to worry about. And then there is the obvious ones that organizations need to worry about, is scalability and cost, right?
Mm.
Yes, we know technology is getting cheaper, but in order for you to keep optimizing your models and things like that, it doesn't come cheap. It's not, it's not one of those things where um, you set it and forget it, right? It's not your air fryer, or it's not your cooker that you put it in. You set it and forget it. You're going to have to keep working on it.
That is great. And maybe I'll take us to a different topic. To me, you've always been, Pritesh, one of the guys I could come back to and talk about customer experience, because you're in the field, been there, done that, unpacked things, brought things to life. And if one had to think, how does one how should one think about using AI and ML? So I'm not even talking about Gen AI. So how should one think about AI and ML when you start looking at analyzing customer data and predicting behaviors? Um, is that even customer experience? Am I missing a plot? Are there more things? How should one even start thinking about this?
So, I think there are certain things like, you could start looking into, like, customer segmentation, for example. When we're not talking about like Gen AI, like exactly like you said, right? If you were to just identify different customer segments based on their demographics, based on their purchase history, online behavior, maybe, and more, and then you start targeting your marketing efforts around that by tailoring messages. Think about like your customer journey as well, right? There are different touch points. There is a different way where you could, you go from initial awareness to post purchase, and all the things in between. And by delivering personalized content based on who you are and looking at your behaviors and your history, you can offer certain marketing um, messages that are personalized at each of these touch points. You can enhance that customer experience, I would say, better for the customer, and drive conversions. Some of the recent examples that come to my mind is that, we're not even talking about Gen AI, but it's like, um, when you look at any booking path, and I'm
Mm.
not just talking about travel or hospitality, in a lot of these e-commerce booking paths, there's a lot of things jammed in trying to sell, upsell and cross sell and all of that. And is that necessarily the best way to upsell and cross sell? Do people have the most time to take 10 minutes to get through a booking or an e-commerce path to get to the end result, right? What they're trying to do. Sometimes people just want to go from point A to B, get it all done, and then go and add any add-ons that anybody wants to do. So I think understanding a little bit of that, from a journey perspective, from a segmentation perspective, behavior perspective, I think, all of that data exists today, from customers, right, and how they're doing it, and how do you make best use of that using AI, is where certain companies are going to do better. The other one is sentiment
Mm,
analysis.
mm.
We're not talking about Gen AI like or any of that, right? It's just NLPs. There are techniques you can use to analyze customer feedback. We see, how many times you just said, right? I want to be able to Google or go to ChatGPT and tell me the 10 best Thai restaurants. Now, that could be based, one of the inputs could be customer feedback and reading what that is, right? But there are ways to read through NLP reviews, feedback, social media posts around it. And then it helps not only the organizations know how the customers are feeling about it, but on the flip side, you could use it for a positive for your customers who are looking for your top 10. Like if a lot of the customers are giving you a 4.8 rating, um, why not showcase that back into some of that, right? So it allows for those real-time adjustments and improvements, and something like NLP, which has existed for um, quite a long time. And I don't see a lot of organizations, I would say, still doing that.
Right. I mean, I was just booking tickets for the weekend to watch a movie, and every time you're done, it always offers you the exact same three things. Do you want 3 months of Sirius XM free? And you get the exact same three things. It feels like, and I could relate quickly to what you spoke about. These same 7 things and 10 things on the purchase cycle, on cross sell, upsell. You think we are entering a new world, which is like, I'm going to make up a word, predictive personalization. So you almost analyze data to predict customers' needs, and then you personalize right then and there the interactions, the offerings, and content. Do you think we're getting there? It's just,
I think organizations are starting to think like that for sure.
hmm.
I do know that customers are thinking like that, and when I say customers are thinking like that, me being one, and I travel quite a bit, and I do that quite a bit, both for business but also for leisure. And my travel is with a different lens now, having a small baby in the house. So um, I would say that this is where it's really it's getting where organizations are starting to think like that. Maybe selling them that additional meal or whatever it is on their travel journey, whether you're an airline or you're a cruise that you're offering, in the booking path is not the best path for it. Maybe at 7 p.m. when we're all having dinner, sending you a push notification saying at this time at 7 p.m. you guys are going to be on a plane, going on the best vacation of your life. Do you want to make it easier for you and pre-purchase a meal? And I might be like, yeah, look, you know what? I want my kids fed. And I know what happens when,
Cranky.
kids are not fed and they get cranky. Let me go buy that meal. And you're probably going to get a more of the purchase,
Mm.
conversion there, because it's relevant, it's contextual, then it is going to be in the purchase path.
It's funny you raised the example of the airline. I was just talking to one of the airlines 2 weeks ago, and they were saying that they know when Prashant checks in, because they know they can see that he has another flight 2 days from now. Very likely Prashant's on a business trip. Why not offer him in premium flight Wi-Fi? The next time Prashant checks in, you can see that he's not the only one who's checked in with the surname Kelkar. There are three more, and the return date is 2 weeks from now. Very likely he's traveling with the family. So why not offer him, a check baggage offer, right? I, and I said, yeah. I mean, I would love that. And the airlines, uh, the CIO there said, well, we can't do it because the systems don't allow us to do that today. We have the ideas, the systems don't allow it. So It feels like there's the need, the idea, and everybody says culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think maybe systems eat strategy for breakfast.
Totally agree with you. I think system integrations, data silos, they are somewhat, and when you start looking at a lot of these, right, organizations, not just airlines, but when you start looking at the banking world, you start looking at some of the other ones. Like some of these organizations have been in existence for quite some time, which means you've got systems that have been around for a long time,
Right,
and systems that don't probably integrate well or talk to each other well. Obviously, a lot of organizations are going through modernization, and there's a lot of those things happening, and that is going to allow to do that. But you're absolutely correct, and I think usually what happens is the existing systems infrastructure can get complex. And then you've got your data silos. Data may be scattered across different departments. So you're correct, right? That your data that you're traveling on a business trip is sitting in one piece of data in one information, whilst it's got access to one department, and then you've got another piece of information that's sitting in another data set, and only another department has access to it, and the two departments don't see the two data to bring it together, or at least think about it to bring it together. And I think as the businesses grow and the need to scale grows, because scalability is not just going to be by adding more people. And as organizations start understanding that, they'll be able to find solutions. But you're right, it's technology. It's not culture. It's organizations anymore or any of that. It's technology now. It's important to design systems that can accommodate growth scale as you look through these lenses going forward, and increase workloads, right? Because customers are starting to expect this now.
true. And so, so we have these systems, and I like how you said it's not just about systems; it's about data silos, and data without context is useless. So data is what gives context to data. Applications give context to data, and then if applications are the monoliths, then you're trapped because the data is sitting in the data silos. Do you think we're entering a world where you got to leave these systems and let them do what they're doing? It's going to be very expensive to replace them or modularize them. Let's start building layers on top and maybe slowly choke this into non-existent over the next 10 years. Do you think we are entering a world where um, so we have systems on record on one end, and I'll make up another term, systems of intelligence emerging slowly on top of it, trying to pick up pieces from each application, pieces of connected data from each, and joining it because the systems can't do it on their own.
We might be, and I think this will differ organizations to organizations. I've seen organizations where they're actually taking the time to modernize, like
Mm,
exactly what you said, is that they're taking these systems apart. They're taking the time, and I'll tell you, there were a lot of organizations during COVID that actually took advantage, and they did not downscale or they did not do anything. They invested in their technology. They invested in filling the gaps that were there. So there are organizations that actually did that during the time where there was probably not a lot of interactions with some of those companies and organizations, and they did that. They moved into more of a modern stack, allowing them to do. I would say it is going to be a little bit of a mix. There are going to be organizations that are going to see the value in spending 2 to 5 years just modernizing everything. It comes at a cost because you're not able to continue your business as usual, because there will be some limitations while you're modernizing. And then there are going to be organizations that are going to do exactly what you said. They'll start extracting. You're going to Most of these systems become those system of records in the back
mhm,
end
mhm.
that you just pull when you need a data or you need a data sync. And um, and then you start building layers on top, and you start extracting different layers, like whether they are your enterprise integration layers, your experience layers, all that kind of stuff, where organizations will start doing that, where they'll start minimizing the older systems a bit. It becomes more like your record keeping
Yeah.
data where it is. And I see that happening for organizations that probably are looking to move faster and start seeing progress faster.
Pritesh, I think we've opened multiple boxes. We've opened, I think, the Pandora's box on enterprise architecture. We've opened the box on systems of record. Also, I think we you teased us a little bit about business cases and use cases on customer experience. I, I, I slowly see us coming at the top of time for what we had planned for today. But I'd love to explore this in another episode with you. And in another episode, we can get into topics like implementation challenges. You can take us a little deeper below exploring the business cases, what are real world applications and results. So, folks, stay tuned. Pritesh has a lot more to offer, and we're going to unpack this the next time we meet.
Thank
See
you,
you
Prashant. Thank you. I'll be happy to be back.
Perfect. Thanks.